Welcome to Thanksgiving break at the movies. Yes, I have an entire week off of work, and a lot of movies come out because it's a holiday. So I have got them lined up, and I wanted to start with this one. Like, this was at the top of the list. Let me tell you why. So this was originally supposed to be a summer release. Like, I remember seeing trailers for it in the summer when I was back in Alaska, going, oh man, that looks so good. You know, produced by the Russo brothers, of course, of Avengers and Captain America film fame, starring Chadwick Boseman. The story looked really tight and interesting and intense, and I was just like, man, I gotta see that. And then suddenly disappeared. They moved it. They moved it from, I think it was a July release to later in August. And I went, all right, that's fine. I'll see when I get home. Get home, August, they move it again. And I'm like, what the hell? And then for a little while, there was no sign of it. Then it pops up coming out in November. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go see this before they freaking move it again. Now, the question that we have to answer, first off, is after all of that and a lot of anticipation, was it worth the wait? And short answer, yes. Yes, it was. This was a very good movie. Definitely filled a lot of gaps that I didn't know needed filling. So let's talk about this as I back out very carefully. Again, I'm probably going to be going to the movies a lot during the day here, so I'm going to try to drive away from the sun, but, we'll do what we can so that you're not getting blinded. I'll try to drive towards the sun. Anywho, so let's talk about this movie. So, first off, just gotta say, great movie. Incredibly tight. It reminded me a lot of The Fugitive. It's not an action movie like, a Die Hard or something like that. It's an action movie more in a lot of the classic cat and mouse, the chaser and the chase, the hunter and the hunted, that whole spiel. So in this film, Chadwick Boseman is a cop who is known for hunting down cop killers. And he's also known for taking them out. He kills them, basically. And the misconception amongst his peers is that he's like a gunslinger. He just goes out there and kills guys, but he doesn't. He has the code of ethics, and he's saying, I don't shoot unless they shoot at me, and I try to bring him in, but if I don't, well, that's the way it is. So there's this night where this this drug deal goes like completely south, and these two dudes like murder all these cops. So they bring in Chadwick Boseman, basically thinking that he's going to go hunt them down like dogs. And, he basically closes down the island, hence the name. And while everyone else wants him to just go out there and execute these guys, he's more interested in finding out what really happened. He's not just going to blast them down. And through the kind of cat and mouse game, there's conspiracies, there's this, there's that, and all that, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So the story, first of all, is very intriguing and very interesting. All right? I like the character that they set up for Chadwick Boseman. Like I say, a guy who's known for hunting down cop killers, but whose reputation is very different from the reality. I liked that. That's something you don't see in movies a lot. Usually in movies, it's what you see is kind of what you get. I hate using Die Hard as a reference because it's not an apt comparison. But cops like that are what we're kind of used to. That's a cop. We know he's a good cop. And that's we're not really interested in nuance. But here you have a character who is very nuanced. And let me say this. I gotta just get on this bandwagon here, folks. But I like to think I was on it, but I'm more on it now. Chadwick Boseman is the fucking man. He is the fucking man. God, what a screen presence this guy carries. And I feel like I'm very late to that party I saw one movie of his prior to Black Panther, and that was Draft Day. He was very good in Draft Day. But of course, I know him and got to know him like a lot of people did from Black Panther, and and his subsequent appearances as that character in the 2 final Avengers films. So he now has an aura. He's got a thing. I'm not going to say he's got a type, but the thing about this guy is he has got fucking power. When he walks on the screen, he is a powerful presence. And playing a powerful, authoritative character like this just seems to be something he takes to like a duck to water. He is so good and so commanding. It's like the screen is his every time. And he's given a very, again, it's an action suspense film. And those type of films, the characters aren't given a lot of nuance. The film this more closely resembles, the one that I kept thinking of as I was watching this in a good way, is the 90s version of The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford. And what this movie very much is that, but from the detective's point of view. So it's more like that shitty sequel they did, U.S. Marshals, only actually good. So yeah, he is just really good. Another guy who's really good, so again, it's kind of like The Fugitive in like 2 stories kind of going on. So you've got Chadwick Boseman hunting down the gunman, and the other point of view character is one of the gunmen. The actor's name I do not know. I did not recognize him from anything. So I'm going to call him Michael, because that was the character's name, so I'm just going to call him Michael. So Michael is in on this heist, this drug heist, and the guy he's robbing them with, he's the guy that actually kills everybody. Michael doesn't actually kill anyone, he just lays down suppressing fire. But now he is lost in this, the shitstorm that kind of follows him. So our other point of view is this guy who we have kind of sympathy for, and watching the two of them kind of run on these parallel lines of, zipping in and out, and you don't quite know at some points, who you want to get caught, if you want them to get away, and that's really good. So I apologize that I wasn't looking at the screen to kind of catch this actor's name. I should have looked on IMDb. I was busy on IMDb checking out the director, who's another guy I want to talk about. The director's by a guy by the name of Brian Kirk, who I saw and I was like, that does not sound familiar, and there's a reason. He hasn't done a whole lot in, full-length films, but he's done a lot of TV, but like big budget TV. He's a former Game of Thrones director. He's directed a lot of stuff for streaming services, which tend to have a little bit more budget. So this guy has got a really keen edge. He makes the chases and the action very suspenseful. And I don't mean like in a edge of your seat kind of way, but in a things popping up and you react to them. We've been conditioned, and this is not a bad thing, but we've been conditioned via kind of the Marvel films and comic book movies, James Bond movies, to just kind of sit back and watch the action, and not really be all that affected by it. Like I think of the chase scene in Captain America Civil War, where Cap and the Black Panther are chasing down the Winter Soldier. That's a great chase scene. But at no time are you really on the edge of your seat. You're more just back watching the cool stunts and watching the action. Oh man, it's awesome. Ditto, like the other one I was thinking of, is the opening chase scene of Casino Royale, where Daniel Craig is chasing the parkour guy up the side of the building and onto the forklift and all this. Again, edge of your seat, really kind of, oh man, this is so fucking awesome, such a fucking stunt, but not really in the terms of a real visceral, you're in the middle of an actual chase kind of thing. But Brian Kirk as a director, really, there's a chase scene towards the climax of the film, which is just fantastic. And it is fantastic in a kind of, oh shit, kind of way. of just not knowing where things are coming. So man, this guy has got a really good eye, really nice in terms of his staging, where he's got his camera set up. The editing is really crisp. It's a really well put together movie and a really great mystery. So, on the whole, this movie really lives up to its expectations. Is it perfect? And that's a no. And I gotta talk a little bit about why it's not perfect in my eyes. And to do that, I'm afraid I've got to get a little political. Just a little. I try not to go too political on this show, but, the world influences art, and the stuff we watch is the direct. That's what I keep telling my intro students. Art is the reflection of society. We respond to our society and the way we feel about the world around us through our art. So we can't really deny everything. Pardon me. Excuse me. Uncut. Anyway, so let's talk about what kind of I didn't like about this movie. So as I said in the kind of the plot breakdown, this story gets into a lot of the trailers have you think that it's a robbery gone wrong, tied to some drug dealers, and some cops get killed, and this guy comes in to track down the bad guys. And that's the basis of it. But what we find, of course, is there's a bigger conspiracy, there's this, that, and the other thing, there's dirty cops, and that plot point, when I realized we were going there, it deflated a lot of the movie for me for two reasons. First is logistical, the second is personal. Logistically, we have seen the dirty cop twist so many times. Just sitting in the theater, I can think of at least two movies I've seen in the last 3 months that have used that twist. So it's not a twist anymore. It's expected. It's a little hackneyed. And a movie that is really coming at you with a fresh take, fresh eyes, a new director. Chadwick Boseman's not young. I think he's in his 30s or 40s. But, a new screen presence who's just making his way and, finally planting his flag in the Hollywood scene, saying, I'm the man now. There's all this freshness around this movie, and yet there's this stale bit right in the center of it. That you're just like, oh God, another dirty cop subplot. And the question of how far is the good cop gonna go to bring in? Will he? Da 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 da. And it's very hackneyed. And the thing is, you didn't need that. The core concept of the film of a dedicated cop, who his stock and trade is chasing down cop killers. Chasing down a cop killer who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and in the middle of a sea of guys and gals who are angry and want revenge, and this whole thing of is he going to get to them before they shoot first, and all that. That's enough. I think if they kept the movie there, I think it would have been a much tighter and a much more interesting experience. Again, if you look at The Fugitive, how much duller that movie would have been if it suddenly turned out Tommy Lee Jones was the one who killed Harrison Ford's wife. The other thing I think of a lot is the movie and the play 12 Angry Men. I show that to my intro students every year to teach them about reviews. And the thing they can never quite get their head around, because it's the films they've been raised on, is that they think that the killer is one of the jurors. Because that's what they've been trained. That's what movies have kind of trained us to think. The people in the movie, one of them has to be the bad guy. And saying the fact that they know they never actually determine if he's the bad guy. They never find out, for sure who murdered the guy. They have a real hard time wrapping their heads around that because that's not the media they've been shown. And I think we could have done something different here, and I think they missed that opportunity. And here's the other thing. So that's the logistics. That's the film critic in me. Let me talk a little personal. And again, I'm going to get a little political, so please bear with me. Hands down, bar none, without question, there are bad cops out there. No question. We have, these days especially, that is a truth of life we sadly have to face and deal with. There have always been bad cops. There are always people who are in a position of authority who will abuse that authority for whatever reason. Money, racism, just personal vendettas. Maybe they got one too many swirlies when they were a kid and they're taking it out on the rest of the world. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, there are bad cops. But I believe that for every bad cop, someone who is on the take, someone who does beat a suspect because of the color of their skin, I believe there are twice as many good cops out there who are trying to do their job in a world that has never really respected them, and especially recently, because of the actions of the bad cops, treats them even worse now. The job of cop is a thankless one. I think that being a teacher is bad sometimes, but being a cop, that is... No, I'm not trying to be vulgar here, but you have got to have guts and balls and ovaries of steel to do that job. I have nothing but respect for the men and women in blue. And I felt like, when I saw the trailers for this movie, that we were going to get a movie about good cops. About the lives that they lose trying to do their job. How hard it is. And this movie does a great job of showing just what a daunting task it is to do a manhunt in a place the size of Manhattan. And what you got to do and the hurdles you got to go through. So it really is trying to paint that picture. But when you again, in my opinion, when you take the shift and you make it, now you have a dirty cops in it, I think it cheapened it. It really, I felt like, pulled the emotional rug out from under it a bit. I really wanted this to be a movie for the good cops out there. Because it feels like in movies like this, like they keep saying that the good cops are the minority and the dirty cops are the majority. And I don't know if that's true. I can only speak to the officers that I know, the officers I work with. The people I know who have relatives or family who are police officers, I don't believe that is true. I believe the bad cops are the minority, the good cops are the majority. And I really wanted this movie to be a movie kind of celebrating the good cops, the sacrifices they make, and the thankless job that they do. And it's not saying the movie doesn't do that, because it does. But I feel like when it takes the route that it took, it emotionally for me, it cheapened it a little bit. So that's, again, I don't want to get too political here, but that's my take on the film. Final grade. Let's talk about final grade for 21 Bridges. I'm going to B+. B+ on this one. And again, the knockdown in grade is more of a personal thing. Of course, I guess every knockdown in a grade is a personal thing. Every critic is, coming at it from a personal standpoint of some kind. So, I really liked it. It's definitely a film I think I'm going to buy and watch again. If for no other reason than the suspense is really good, the parallel storyline is really good. Chadwick Boseman is a force of nature. and the director has such a good eye. It's like, I want this guy on a James Bond movie. I want this guy on a Marvel movie. I want him on some bigger stuff because he deserves that crack at it. I felt a little bad because this movie opens against Frozen 2. So there were like 5 people in the theater, and I think this is a really good movie, and I want people to go check it out. So, you know, if you like chase movies, you like, you know, cat and mouse type stories, then I think you're going to dig this one. So by all means, go check it out. All right. So that's film number 1 on Thanksgiving break at the movies, and there's more coming up. We got a lot to get through. I hope everybody has a happy and healthy and wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. You know where I'll be, and I hope you're somewhere happy and having a great time. So, until next time, as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.